Hey, what's going on, guys? This Saturday is UFC Vegas 95, Marcin Tybura versus Serghei Spivac, and this is going to be my full card predictions for this truly once-in-a-lifetime card, once-in-a-generation card. This card from top to bottom is stacked with incredible fights. Look, this is one of the worst cards I've ever seen. This is one of the worst main events I've ever seen. But I'm going to break down every fight on the card. I'm going to go through each fight, give a breakdown and prediction. And there's a couple gems on this card. Let's start off with the very first fight of the night. We have Stephanie Lucindo versus Talita Alencar. This is a rematch. They went to a draw. Alencar was winning. She was gassed in the third round, lost 10-8 third round. Alencar just likes to grapple nonstop. She has no striking. Lucindo has a little bit... decent strike. I mean, both of these girls are bottom of the barrel. She has okay takedown defense. She was kind of able to stuff some takedowns early against Alencar, but eventually she just ended up getting taken down and controlled. Now, Alencar did get a win in the UFC over Ray and Amanda. I thought she lost that fight. Lucindo hasn't fought in 10 months since they last fought, so she's fighting Alencar back-to-back. I don't think it's going to be any different than the first fight, other than Alencar doesn't gas. She didn't gas against Ray and Amanda. I'm going to say she doesn't gas here. And I'm going to say she gets it done with her grappling. So I'm going to go Talita Alencar via decision. Why is this the first fight on the card? What are we doing? This should be co-main event. I'm kidding. But yeah, I don't expect this to be a barn burner. Both very inexperienced. I mean, what, six fights for Alencar, 7 fights for Lucindo. I'm going Talita Alencar, even though I think she's an absolute scrub. Next fight on the card, we have Jarno Errens versus Youssef Zalal. Look, I'm high on Youssef Zalal. I'm very, very high. He was fighting at the Kentucky State Fair after he left the UFC. He comes back. I think came back on short notice. He beat Billy Q, dominated Billy Q, finished him in the second round via rear naked choke. Great movement, great striking. Took a round off Ilia Topuria, in his first UFC stint. He's not the best striker, but I think he's better striking and grappling than Jarno Errens. Jarno Errens is decent everywhere. He actually surprised me in his last fight against Stephen Nguyen. Got the win there. Was boxing him up, hurting him. I think he ended up losing the third round, if I'm not mistaken. I just watched this fight the other day. But either way, I don't trust him to get it done here. I think Youssef Zalal is going to win this fight. I think he's the far superior fighter. I'm actually shocked this is on the prelims, though. For a card of this quality, Youssef Zalal deserves to be up on the card. But he's losing. Jarno Errens losing to Sung Woo Choi, losing to William Gomez, and he's got one win in the UFC, right? Yeah, one win in the UFC against Stephen Nguyen. It was a good performance. I definitely think he's improving, but Youssef Zalal coming in off a win over Billy Q. I think he gets it done over Jarno Errens. I don't know if he's going to finish him, so I'm going to pick Youssef Zalal via decision. Errens is going to have to catch him with a big shot because Zalal isn't great on the feet, but he's pretty solid and he's still improving, and he's young. He's only 27 years old. He was landing some nasty shots on Billy Q, including some knees that hurt Billy Q badly. So I don't think Errens is as good of a striker. I think Zalal will be able to out-grapple him as well. I think Errens is probably going to end up trying to grapple. And I can see a position or a moment where he ends up getting reversed and Zalal ends up on top doing some damage. I'm picking Zalal to get it done. I'm going to say via decision, probably 30-27 decision. Next fight on the card, we have Karl Williams versus Jhonata Diniz, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Diniz is coming off a win over Austin Lane. Got dominated in the first round, taken down, full mounted, came back in the second round, got a KO. But Austin Lane's a straight-up garbage can. Karl Williams is actually decent. He's only lost one fight ever. It was a while ago. He beat Justin Tafa, out-grappled him in the last fight. Beat Jay Sherman, beat Lucas Dresky. It was one of the Contender Series. Look, I'm forgetting how to pronounce it. I want Diniz to win because I think he's the funner heavyweight. He's got really good striking, decent power. He's 7-0, undefeated, all 7 are finishes. But you're getting full mounted in the first round against Austin Lane. What do you think Karl Williams is going to do to you? Karl Williams' striking isn't that good. If Karl Williams can't get the takedown, he's going to get brutally KO'd on the feet first or second round. But that's not what I think happens. I think Karl Williams will be able to get the takedown. He's too big. He's too strong. Diniz is like an out-of-shape light heavyweight. I mean, he's built like a bag of milk. Maybe he comes into this fight in better shape. His striking definitely is superior, but Karl Williams is going to take him down and ragdoll him. I mean, he's fighting a similar matchup in Justin Tafa in his last fight. And he took him down, just mauled him on the ground. Austin Lane is taking down Diniz, full mounting him. It's not like it's in the third round where he's gassed. We're talking in the first round. So I could see Karl Williams actually getting a TKO on the ground with ground and pound, but I'm going to pick Karl Williams to get it done via decision. Karl Williams is kind of a decision machine. I don't remember the last time he got a finish. It's been over 2 years, and it was outside the UFC since the last time he got a finish. So I'm picking Karl Williams by dominant grappling decision. Next fight on the card, Karol Rosa versus Pannie Kianzad. Look, Karol Rosa, I thought she was a straight-up scrub. She's improved drastically. She looked good against Irene Aldana. She was landing some nasty leg kicks. Her striking looked good, but she faded, and she lost to Irene Aldana, who had the superior boxing. Before that, split decision win over Yana Santos. You have Pannie Kianzad, lost to Macy Chaston, got finished there, lost to Ketlin Vieira. Last win was 2.5 years ago against Lena Landsberg. I mean, I don't know how good that is for Pannie Kianzad. Pannie Kianzad will probably look to grapple, but I think Rosa is going to be better there. Pannie Kianzad just isn't great anywhere. She's 32 years old, which isn't particularly old, but I don't think she has an advantage in this fight anywhere. I could see Karol Rosa going out there chopping her legs and beating her up on the feet. And if she's improved as much as she did since the Aldana fight to now, I think Pannie Kianzad's going to get busted up. You never know with women's MMA, but I'm going to pick Karol Rosa. I'm going to say she gets it done via decision. I mean, she could maybe take her down and get a finish, but I don't know. I mean, Karol Rosa's winning a majority decision over Lena Landsberg. Split decision over Yana Santos. Her best performance is a loss against, Aldana. So I'm not going to pick her to get a finish. I can see her coming out, chopping the legs, landing on the feet. I think she's going to be the bigger, stronger grappler as well. So I'm going to pick Karol Rosa via decision. Next fight on the card, we have Danny Barlow versus Nikolai Veretennikov. Look, I could barely find any footage on Veretennikov, but he looked kind of amateurish. And he's not fighting great opposition. But he's getting finishes. His last 3 fights, he's gotten finishes. He lost on the Contender Series to Michael Morales 3 years ago almost. So that's not a horrible loss to have. And now he's getting another opportunity in the UFC. He's taking this on short notice. I can't remember how short notice it is. I think Barlow was originally supposed to fight Udos Medic, if I'm not mistaken. But Danny Barlow, 8-0, nasty finisher. Look, how can you not pick left hand to God? I mean, he's got a nasty left hand. He's slick on the feet. He doesn't really have any obvious holes in his game. Veretennikov, I only watched a little bit of his footage from what I could find on YouTube, and he didn't look particularly good. I think he's going to try to strike. I mean, maybe he mixes in the grappling, but he's 34 years old against a 29-year-old surging Danny Barlow, who's out there just knocking everyone dead. Everyone dead. I mean, his last 4 wins are all by finish. So I think Danny Barlow is going to be slicker on the feet. And I'm picking Danny Barlow first round KO. I just see him going out there and starching him. Another masterclass performance. It's not against the greatest opposition, but he's still working his way up. He's a Dana White's Contender Series guy. The UFC likes to build those types of guys. I'm picking Danny Barlow. I think he gets it done via first round KO. Next fight on the card, Haralampos Grigoriou versus Tashimi Kazama. I hope I'm not butchering those names right now off the top of my head. Look, Kazama is a grappler who's super aggressive on the feet. Got KO'd by Garrett Armfield in his last fight. Got KO'd by Rinya Nakamura in the fight before that. His last win's on road to UFC over 2 years ago. Haralampos Grigoriou lost to Chad Anheliger. It was a decently competitive fight. Before that, got a KO on Dana White's Contender Series. Super aggressive. Has nasty leg kicks. Has decent power, decent striking. And I think Kazama's striking is straight up shit. He's super aggressive. He could land, but I don't see him. It's going to be whether or not he can get the takedowns. I don't see him outstriking Grigoriou on the feet. And so it really comes down to, can he get the takedowns? I mean, Chad Anheliger was able to get it, but Chad Anheliger, he's kind of a gritty veteran who has decent wrestling, and he was struggling. He was getting boxed up on the feet a bit. Now, he got the win ultimately with the grappling, but this is grappler versus striker. And look, I'm not picking a guy who's been finished in, 3 out of his last 4 fights. Even before road to the UFC, he had lost via flying knee KO. So in his last three out of 4 fights, brutally chinned. I'm going to pick Haralampos Grigoriou to get it done. I'm going to say second round KO. I think he's the better striker. I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. And I think Kazama is going to be a fish out of water on the feet. I mean, I don't trust Grigoriou that much. But at the end of the day, I don't trust Kazama to get it done. I don't trust his chin. He's super aggressive, so he can try to force the takedown, and he gets clipped on the feet. And I'm going to pick Grigoriou to get it done. I'm going to say second round TKO. Next fight on the card. This is the main card. So we're getting to the good fights now. We're actually getting to the good fights. By the way, we only have 10 fights now. There's been some cancellations. We lost a co-main event, which was Javid Basharat versus Chris Gutierrez, which was probably the best fight on the card. We lost that today, I believe it was. Yeah, we lost that today. So the card got even worse. But the first fight on the main card, Alan Nascimento versus Jafel Filho. Two really solid grapplers. Nascimento has 15 wins via sub. Filho has 10 wins via sub. So they're both, they both have really good jiu-jitsu. But look, I'm looking at their recent performance. Okay, he submitted Ode Osborne for Filho. Ode Osborne has no grappling at all. Before that, beat Daniel Perez. Not that great. Before that, got submitted by Muhammad Makayev. Undefeated prospect. So not a horrible loss. Did have that knee bar towards the end that Makayev was able to defend. And before that, Contender Series. You have Alan Nascimento. Great performance against Carlos Hernandez in his last fight. I feel like his striking's improving, but his grappling's really good. His most recent loss was a split decision loss to Tagir Ulanbekov, which he just got out-wrestled in that, but he's constantly throwing up subs. And I think in this fight against Filho, I think he's going to have the better grappling. And I think he's going to be able to get Filho to the ground, and I think he's going to out-scramble him on the ground. And I just think he has the better BJJ. And I'm going to say he finds the sub. I mean, he's constantly throwing up submissions. In his last fight against Carlos Hernandez, went out there, got the takedown, started looking for the rear naked choke for a minute and a half before he finally sunk it in. And I think it's going to be something similar. I think there's going to maybe a takedown. Filho defends, maybe he ends up on top, but Alan Nascimento gets a sweep or creates a scramble where he ends up in the advantageous position, and then he starts fighting for, a good position to find a submission. I'm going to pick Nascimento. I'm going to say second round rear naked choke. I'm going to say he gets him down, finds the back, gets the rear naked choke. And I don't think he's completely outmatched on the feet. I don't think Filho is so great on the feet. I think they're about even on the feet. And Nascimento, I think he's improving more than Filho from fight to fight. And he's got the better names. I mean, I know Carlos Hernandez isn't that great, but, went out there, dispatched him, made him look like a bum. Fight before that, beat Jake Hadley pretty soundly. Jake Hadley just recently got a win, so I guess that win's age okay. I mean, this card is tough to pick, but I think Alan Nascimento gets it done. I favor his grappling. I could see him getting it done via decision because Filho is going to be hard to submit, but I think he's going to find the rear naked choke, just like Muhammad Makayev. I'm taking Alan Nascimento's second round submission. Next fight on the card, featured fight on the card. We have Yana Santos versus Chelsea Chandler, a.k.a. Forrest Gump. Look, it's women's MMA. It's sad that this is a main card fight in 2024. But I got to go Chelsea Chandler. Yana Santos, 3-fight losing streak. Lost to Karol Rosa. Lost to Holly Holm. Lost to Irene Aldana. Got finished in that fight. She's 34 years old. Maybe a year or two ago, I would have picked her over Chelsea Chandler. But I think Chelsea Chandler is just going to be bigger and stronger and implement the grappling. I mean, Holly Holm was controlling her in the clinch. I know Holly Holm was pretty strong, and it actually was an elite fighter at one point in time. But I'm not picking her on a 3-fight losing streak. I'm not. Let's look at Tapology. 78% is picking Chandler. Look, I could see Santos winning this fight because I think Chelsea Chandler's an absolute scrub. I mean, she beat Josiane Nunes in her last fight. I think I picked Nunes in that fight. I don't remember for sure. She lost to Norma Dumont, ran for her life, got hit, ran for her life. I think Santos is the better striker, but I think she's been around forever. She has a lot of fights. She's never looked particularly good. She's got 23 fights overall, or 22 fights overall. Lost 8 of them on a 3-fight losing streak. I'm going to pick Chelsea Chandler via decision to out-grapple her, take her down, beat her up, control her, and get it done. I mean, what's more to say about this fight? I could see Santos pulling it off, but we'll see. I'm going Chelsea Chandler via decision. Next fight on the card, probably the best fight on the card. We have Chepe Mariscal versus Damon Jackson, the co-main event. I took Damon Jackson's picture into the barber, and I said, you know what? Give me the Damon Jackson. That's exactly what I got here. So I'm going to have to go with... I'm not kidding. I'm not going with Damon Jackson. No way I'm going with Damon Jackson. I'm going Chepe Mariscal. Dude is an absolute dog, man. I picked against him against Morgan Charrier, and I actually think he lost that fight. But before that, I picked him to beat Jack Jenkins. Before that, I picked him to beat Trevor Peek. I believe a lot of those fights, a lot of people were counting him out. He took the Trevor Peek fight, I believe, on short notice. Chepe Mariscal is an absolute savage. Nasty on the feet. Good grappling. hard to control. He's a little bit small for the weight class, but Damon Jackson's kind of chinny. He's slowing down. He's 36 years old. He's coming off a split decision win over Alexander Hernandez, who I think is washed up. And how can I pick Damon Jackson? Lost to Billy Q, lost to Dan Ige. Neither one of those losses are terrible. Got a KO win over Pat Sabatini, but that's 2 years ago. I think Chepe Mariscal is just, I think he's just too good. I think he's too good for Damon Jackson. I don't know how far Chepe Mariscal will go, but I think he's definitely better than Damon Jackson. I think he's going to clip him up on the feet. I'm going to, I know Chepe doesn't have like crazy power, but I'm going to pick him to get it done via KO. Damon Jackson's kind of wonky and awkward on the feet, and he leaves openings. And I see him in this fight getting clipped on the chin and put down badly, and then Chepe is super aggressive, has killer instinct. I'm going to pick Chepe Mariscal to get it done, second round KO in the co-main event. I don't know how you can pick against Chepe Mariscal. And if this turns into a war, any fight, most fights in the featherweight division, specifically outside the top 15, if it turns into a war, I'm taking Chepe Mariscal. And Damon Jackson's a guy that's just sloppy on the feet, and I just see him kind of getting swarmed a bit, and then he's not just going to curl up in the ball like Cody Bumditch and just fade and just fall apart. Damon's going to just sloppily throw back, and I think in those sequences, he'll get clipped and finish. So I'm going Chepe Mariscal. I'm going to say early second round TKO for Chepe Mariscal. Main event, we have Marcin Tybura, Serghei Spivac 2. A rematch from 2020. Who wins this one? First off, ew. How is this a main event in 2024? This is 5 rounds. Imagine this goes 5 ugly-ass rounds. Look, I flipped back and forth on this fight. And you're looking at a dude who made the worst pick of his life by picking Spivac over Gane. I just said, oh, you know what? Gane's been out grappling in his last 2 fights. He's a bum. He can't grapple. I'm picking Spivac. And I was just totally wrong, and I didn't take it into account. You know what? It was Francis Ngannou and John Jones. So you're looking at a guy that picks Spivac, one of his worst picks ever in the history of YouTube, to beat Cyril Gane. How are you not going to pick him to beat Marcin Tybura? I'm not. Spivac is not that good. Really, I would like to reserve my pick to find out if anyone's eating Taco Bell in the locker room. Because Tybura, I didn't expect him to beat Tai Tuivasa, and Tai Tuivasa's eating Taco Bell in the locker room. Then he goes out there and beats him up and rear naked chokes him, and Tuivasa had nothing for him. But I consider Tuivasa a bum. I know people like him because his entire personality is drinking out of a fucking shoe. But I thought he was a scrub, but I thought he was a good enough scrub to beat Tybura. And you look at Tybura's resume, lost to Tom Aspinall, no shame in that. Beat Blagoy Ivanov, who's one of these big, plotty guys who likes to grapple, similar to Spivac. Beat Alexander Romanov, same thing, big, plotty guys who likes to grapple. Last loss before that was a competitive fight against Alexander Volkov, who looks better than ever now, arguably close to a number 1 contender fight, if not in a number 1 contender fight in his next fight. So compare that to Spivac, loses Cyril Gane, looks like an absolute scrub, beats Derek Lewis, but Derek Lewis has no ground game. Beats Augusta Sakai, not in the UFC. Beats Greg Hardy. Loses to Tom Aspinall. Neither one of them have terrible losses. You go back and watch the first fight. Tybura out-grappled Spivac. But Spivac was much smaller then. Looked like a light heavyweight. And he was winning on the feet. But I just think Tybura, it's not like Spivac's going to one-punch KO him. And I think Tybura is the better grappler, better BJJ. And he has better technique. And his striking's decent. And he has a variety of finishes, whether it be submission or TKO. And I don't trust Spivac's cardio. Dude looks exhausted after 1 round. So I'm going to pick Tybura as the gritty vet. Normally I wouldn't pick a 38-year-old over a 29-year-old, but it's the heavyweight division. Heavyweight division, 38's like 28 anyway. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick Marcin Tybura to get it done. I'm going to say 3rd round TKO. I'm going to say by that point they'll both be pretty tired. Spivac will end up in a bad position on the ground because Tybura has the better jiu-jitsu. And I see Tybura beating him up on the ground and getting a 3rd round TKO over Serghei Spivac. But who knows? Who knows? Truly, who knows? Weird main event. But yeah, I'm going Tybura. I don't trust Spivac to get it done at all. Against a guy who's well-rounded. I know Marcin Tybura, everyone, he's kind of a scrub, but he's super well-rounded. So, what's Spivac going to beat him up on the feet and KO him? No, he's not. Spivac's slow as hell. I think I could outbox Spivac. So I'm going to go Marcin Tybura. He got it done against Tai Tuivasa. Didn't get finished there and brutalized him. But listen, if we see Tybura eating Taco Bell in the locker room, I want to change my pick to Spivac, to the Polar Bear. but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm picking Marcin Tybura via 3rd round TKO, ground and pound finish on an exhausted Spivac. I pray this doesn't go 5 rounds. But yeah, there's my predictions for UFC Vegas 95 at the Apex, another barn burner. And then we move on. Then we move on to UFC 305 the following week. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.